Testing. Is it on? I gotta like, if I start the stream too quickly, it like merges with the last one. So I'm like waiting a second to make sure the last one actually ended. I need some water. Oh, just refresh already. Come on. Okay, it is a different stream. It didn't get stuck till last stream. One second. Second. One more second. I should have restarted the computer. It's getting laggy. Okay, I think it's saved at the settings. Okay, I guess it didn't cut off what I was saying. It cut off right after I was done saying what I was saying. I need some water. I'm like dying of dehydration. So like this one's one more instruction. It's probably gonna be slower. This computer is so laggy. Let's wrap this in if zero. Might need to restart. It's so laggy. I can't take it. Alright, so I'm gonna assume this is a faster one. I can figure out after I test it all, switch between them. So put like an else instead. No, I'm gonna leave it. I'm not gonna fine tune or optimize because it didn't even work earlier. I really need some water. BRB in a second. My throat is so dry. This is part one of this routine, whatever. Alright, so now I'll run it again to double check. Now I just have to do this operation. Or, I don't know, there's different ways I could do this. I could add one, then right shift, but then the sign would be lost. So I'll just do it the way it's written up. So I'm gonna run it. You're like, this works that I converted. So like this, I converted it to this and this. This one didn't work. I don't know. I haven't done assembly in a while. This was like, it didn't work at all. But these work, so I'm gonna assume this is faster. That does this. So I'm gonna like run it again. I don't know, I just said this all a second ago. But this is like another stream. So I don't know. There's no point going over it again, I guess. So it still works whatever the top bit is. It folds the number, sets all the bits below it. But really it doesn't, it's not strategically setting bits. It is strategic, but there's no, it's the side effect of the operations carried out, which is why the bits are set. So this part works. I'm gonna check to see what the compiler makes really quick. Well, first I'll like add this bottom part to it. So I have only one bit set, the top bit, whatever. So I'm pretty sure this will work from the old routine, whatever. This part didn't work. It's like this part, it didn't work. But I'm pretty sure this is gonna work. So I'll take this part from it. And I'll put it at the end here. I don't know. There's a ton of ways I could do this. I need to just pick one. I'll just go with this or whatever. this in the other one too. I don't know. That'll do. I want to optimize it. I need to stop and just run it. And just get it running, whatever. I'm not even optimizing it as far as I want. Okay, so now it's setting all the bits below to 0, except for the top bit. Dang it. Now it's in the window. It's like, I don't know, now it's working. So now it looks exactly the same as it was. But it is doing whatever. So if I like set this to like a random value, like this again, so it's going to rotate. Now it's going to rotate whatever this is. It's not going to rotate 1, which means that it would set a bunch of bits that it's doing this. And then down here, it's just write 1 and XORs with the original to cancel out all the bits below the 1 bit set, the 1 bit that isn't shifted to right. So now when I run it, I'll leave it like this, whatever. I'll turn this whole thing off. So I turned it off. So now like R12 isn't being used. R13 is. The thing being rotated, whatever. That's this. So now it's just going to print R13 every time. So I'm turning this off, whatever. So now it's going to print R13, which is going to be this. So this is rotated every time now. And it makes this whatever. I'll save like a screenshot. So now I'm going to turn on the routine I have. So now I'm turning it back on. So now it's going to set R12 to DX. I'm turning this block back on. I'm turning part 1 that's already on cell. So now it's going to do this routine. AX is going to hold the result. And AX is being moved to R12. And R12 is now being written instead of R13. So I'll just comment this out just because. So that's what's happening, whatever, with the code, whatever. This doesn't matter. So now I'm going to run it. It's applying this transformation, I guess you call it. But now only the top bit's going to be set. Because it's doing a shift right 1. It's doing an XOR. I can't explain every operation. I'll just try though. Because not everyone will get it. Everyone doesn't care. It doesn't really matter. Something's off. Tabs. I have it set to 4 tabs, but it's like 3 tabbing. It's like tabbing by like 3. I really need some water. So this moves to BX, AX, shifts right, AX, 1, XOR, AX, BX. So if this is the original value, being shifted, right 1, it's a logical shift, not an arithmetic. So assign bit 0. So this bit at the end gets shifted off. It does an XOR here. So mine does the XOR. The bits that match get set to 0. So 0, 0 is 0. 0. These are all 0. No, XOR is it's hard to explain. It only sets it off if they're both the same. So basically 0 and 0 are the same, so it gets set off. 1, 1 are the same, so it gets set off. So do you see the overlap? Where 0, 0 is 0 anyways, so like it gets set off anyways to 0. It could be the opposite, where like 0, 0 gets set on, and 1, 1 gets set off. But that's not this operation. With how it works with this one is when they both match, it gets set off. So 0, 0 is already off, but since it matches, it gets set off. 1, 1 matches, and has to be set off because it matches. These all, when XORed, gets set to 0. Which means that the result has 1 bit set. So that's why it does the shift right, then the XOR whatever. So it sets all the bits that are below it, whatever the value is, to fold the number, and get all the bits. If it's set, propagate it to the whole thing on the bottom. Then it does a shift right. That bit gets shifted off, and after it does the XOR, all that's left, whatever, is the highest bit. So if the value looked like this, if I look like this, it'll do this operation up here. These get set on. This gets set on. That gets set on. They're all on. So it's a true or false. Either everything above is off or everything below is on. Then it makes a copy. It does a shift. Shifts in a bit on the left. A bit on the right. Gets shifted off. Then it does the XOR. Ones match. 0. 0. If they're different, it basically keeps the 1, I guess you could say. Because when they don't match, it stays on. XOR is used to like compare two things. So like if you want to see if two things are equal, then you XOR. So if they're equal, all the 1s match with the 1s, so it becomes 0. All the 0s match with the 0, so they become 0. So if it's the same value, it becomes 0. These are the same. These 0s are the same. These 0s are the same. These 1s 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 are the same. And these 1s are the same. So, if like something's not the same, like this bit, these 1s are the same, it would start off up here, whatever, they're all the same. So these are the same, these are the same, so they're off. These are not the same, which means the results can be 1. These are the same, it's off. Same, it's off. So this means they're not the same, because the result's not 1. Let's say like this bit's off too, maybe this bit's also off. So like when you go through an XOR now, these are the same, so it's off. These are the same, these are not the same, so it's 1. They're the same, they're the same. They're not the same, so it's 1. These two are the same, so it's 0. These are not, that's on. So these are not the same. I mean, they are the same. These are the same. So do you see it? I don't know. That's the point of XOR, is to check for equality. So we can do a shift right 1. It ends up taking the same value, which would be equal before the shift. But after the shift, it intentionally displaces 1 bit. And since it's a known that the rest of the bits are equal, they end up being 0. With only 1 bit set. So it's like the logic, whatever behind it. So I'm going to save it, I'm going to run it, and check to see what the result is. Result, now that I'm passing in this value to rotate instead of 1. So at first it looked like this. It looked like this, whatever, for the value that was set. Which is this. Not this, this. I have to like click somewhere else and highlight it because once you highlight it, if it even clicks, after you highlight it, it won't highlight again. And this computer's really laggy, so I like double click and it won't fucking click, so I gotta triple click and then it clicks too many times. I gotta restart this computer. So this is what it looks like, whatever. So I'm gonna run it, and now when I run it, only the top bit will be set when it runs. So like with this number, the top bit's here, which means that this should be set. These should all be off. This should be set. The rest should be off, or whatever. I don't know. I'll run it now. And it looks like it worked. Take like a screenshot and zoom in. Alright, so this was on the left side. This is before, this is after. So it's like 3 bits here, 2 bits, 1 bit, 4 bits. So 4 bits, 1, 3 bits, 1, 2 bits, 1, 1 bit, 1. 4 has 1 at the top. 4 has 1 at the top. So I think it's working. Alright, it works. So like save it back up or whatever. I would assume this one works still. I'm not going to test it. I'll just assume that later on I'll figure out if it works or not. Because I just kind of pasted the bottom. It should do the same thing. But what I have works, whatever. So now, I'm going to turn this off. So it prints the 1 bit being shifted each time to test each bit position. I'm going to run it again really quick. Dang it. Wrong one. I need some water so bad. And it works. Still works. So nothing's broken. So I'm gonna like type this part of the routine into the browser really quick. So I'm gonna put this in the browser. Here, the first part. And I'll see what Visual Studio does, and then GCC. And then I'm gonna get some water. It's probably gonna be better than this. This is like the first attempt. This didn't work at all. So switch over here. Just gotta type this in. I'm gonna type that in, see what it makes in the browser. Or the compiler online that is on the browser. So the browser, whatever, so I just gotta type this in. Luckily, I think it's already typed in. Not zooming. Dang it. The Mac's like crashing or something. One of the keys are stuck on the keyboard, but they're not stuck. Like, the computer's like stuck. The computer itself is stuck. It thinks the key's pressed, but it's not. I think the battery died in the keyboard. Everything sucks. I flipped around a battery and it still has charge, but it's still stuck. So I'm just gonna type it in, or I think it's typed in. Nothing is working. This is so annoying. I can't zoom in. I gotta restart the computer. So I'm just gonna type. It's already typed in, I think. I'm gonna check if it's typed in. I'll copy paste the output. Then I'm gonna have to restart the computer. It's like not working. Never mind. I can't even type. You know the battery's dead. Alright, just gotta type it in, get the output, then I'll be right. There was no point in typing in these parentheses because it does the same thing. But I just typed them in, whatever, so it looks the same. X and inverted X reserved 1. These are both same thing, whatever. I really hate Windows. I hate Windows so much. Windows pisses me off. It just does not work. Nothing on Windows works. Alright, so the same. Dang it. So this is the same. Yeah, it's this. So I'm gonna take the output from Clang or whatever. It's already on the highest optimization. Copy it. Make a new window, whatever. Paste it. So I pasted the same thing for Visual Studio. I saved it back up so I don't have to type it again. I'm gonna switch it to Visual Studio. Where the heck is Visual Studio? What does this mean? Oh, you can't see because of the thing in the corner. Didn't say this yesterday. This is new. It says the use of this compiler is only permitted for internal evaluation purposes and is otherwise governed by the MS VC license agreement. I didn't agree to the license agreement, did I? Maybe I did. I clicked OK. Let me see what's in this license. This wasn't here yesterday. I can literally go to yesterday on stream and show that this wasn't here. This is literally brand new. I think they're gonna say something like, you can't call our compiler poop, or like, we'll sue you if you show that our compiler is poop because we put our poopy compiler on the poopy internet and we can't take criticism because we're Microsoft and we're a big ass narcissist. And Microsoft, the big ass narcissist, goes around smear campaigning people, other companies, because they're Microsoft, but then they're like, hey, can't do that to us because we're the big ass narcissist. I don't know, I think that's what it's gonna say. If it does, then I'll just have to like internally take this code. I won't like go through line by line, and then I'll just run it or whatever. So it doesn't matter. I can still like say how fast it is without describing the code. Because it's gonna be slow, because it's shit. It's a bunch of poop. Luckily, I have Siri to read this for me. But Siri's not working. Damn it, nothing's working. Testing. The modern operating system is a joke. This stuff is bullshit. Doesn't fucking work. So anyways, like I was saying, luckily, if Siri's gonna work, it might not work. Assuming it's gonna work when I click it, I have Siri to read this. if Siri does read this, it doesn't get stuck or crash again. This stuff is crap.
Skip domain content.
Damn it.
Studio or Microsoft sign into your account access. Skip domain content Visual Studio.
They can't even make a functioning website. For fuck's sake. Could this just please work? What kind of website is this? Oh my god, how poorly designed could website possibly be? I swear to god. Did they have like an image for every little icon of letter? This is fucking stupid. Oh my god. Oh, it's like loading more text as I scroll. That is stupid. So I'm gonna copy. Paste. And now I can finally, if Siri read it, if Siri doesn't crash, anything is possible.
Untitled. Untitled.
I hate Siri.
Untitled. Untitled.
For fuck's sake.
Untitled. Untitled.
So freaking annoying. Wait, I got it. I'll paste it in here. Oh wait, no, I'm gonna use a chatbot. There we go. So I'm gonna ask chatbot to summarize it for me. See what chatbot says. Alright, so this is what I asked chatbot. I'm gonna get some water. LBRB.
What does this mean? Double quote, Microsoft Software License Terms, Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2022. These license terms are an agreement between you and
Actually, I should like listen to this if I'm gonna pretend to listen to it. I might as well listen to it. I'll like LBRB. Alright, see what it says.
What does this mean? Double quote, Microsoft.
I like how I hit pause. Pause means to pause, then resume. So I just click pause. So you think it would resume somewhere after, what does this mean? But no. When you hit play, it goes, what does this mean? It freaking restarts. So once I start this, there's no going back. I'm gonna like just let it read the whole thing then.
What does this mean? Double quote, Microsoft Software License Terms, Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2022. These license terms are an agreement between you and Microsoft Corporation, or based on where you live, one of its affiliates. They apply to the software named above. The terms also apply to any Microsoft services or updates for the software, except to the extent those have different terms. If you comply with these license terms, you have the rights below: installation and use rights. A individual license. If you're an individual working on your own applications, either to sell or for any other purpose, you may use the software to develop and test those applications. B. Organizational license. If you are an organization, your users may use the software as follows. Any number of your users may use the software to develop and test applications released under Open Source Initiative OC, approved open source software licenses. 2. Any number of your users may use the software to develop and test
Their software is crap. No one wants to use it.
number of your users may use the software to develop and test device drivers for the Windows operating system.
The world's worst shitty operating system.
Software only for Microsoft SQL Server development,
Microsoft sucks.
server data tools, or the extensions Microsoft's analysis services
They can analysis my dick.
or SQL Server integration services projects to develop Microsoft SQL Server database
It'd probably be like bigger than size C.
server, or integration
They need like a big integer
users may use the software
because they got small numbers.
part of online or in-person classroom training and education, or for performing academic research.
What's power by?
And you are also not an enterprise.
It's like LGBTQ stuff.
Of your individual users can use the software concurrently to develop and test your applications. 7. If you're an enterprise,
What if I have -1 users?
may not use the software to develop or test your applications.
Only 5 people?
Open source. 2. Visual Studio extensions. 3. Device drivers for the Windows operating system. 5. SQL Server development. and the education purposes as permitted above. An enterprise
This is all for education.
affiliates who collectively have either a more than 250 PCs or users, or b $1 million or the equivalent
Oh, what?
annual revenues. And affiliates means those entities that control, via majority ownership, are controlled by, or are under common control with an organization.
Man, they're freaking going for the money.
Terms apply to your use of the workloads made available to you within the software, except to the extent
I'm just evaluating it.
workload
I
component
don't have $1 million.
terms and support policies. Backup copy. You may make one backup copy of the software for reinstalling his software, online services in the software. Some features of the software make use of online services to provide you information about updates to the software or extensions, or to enable you to retrieve content, collaborate with others, or otherwise supplement your development.
Supplement.
Throughout this agreement, the term software includes these online service features. Using them, you consent to the
They're using me.
described in Section 6, Data F demo use. The uses permitted above include use of the software in demonstrating your applications, G previews. You may use any number of copies of software, components, or features, preview channel software. Microsoft may make available to you through the preview channel only for internal evaluation purposes. Microsoft
They're gonna evaluate what internally?
preview features through the current channel.
Feature these notes.
Your use rights to Visual Studio community. Preview channel software and preview features.
Oh, how long is this?
The preview channel and current channel are further described at https://acker.ms/vs/17/channels-overview. Previews are experimental and may be substantially different from the commercially released version. They may
But it's still gonna suck.
work the way of final
Experimental or not, it's gonna be shit.
previews for the final.
Microsoft can suck a dick.
Microsoft is not
That is what they do. That's why they don't update things.
store updates to you for previews. Visual Studio IntelliCode's
In telecode.
IntelliSense service. This service provides a base model trained on publicly available open source code that enables you to receive AI-assisted IntelliSense suggestions. The base model will enable you to receive AI-assisted
This is so boring.
and components. You may use the base model, in whole or in part, only with the software. The service also provides the facility to train any number of
So they're stealing information from people.
these team completion models are for your use and used by those
What the fuck does this have to do with AI?
to see below for the definition of a team completion model. Be your data. AI-assisted IntelliSense analyzes your application locally to generate a summary file with metadata on the types and their usage across your application which illustrate your patterns of usage. The summary file contains information about the names of classes, methods, and how often they are used in your application, your data. You retain ownership of all aspects of your data, including, but not limited to, all right, title and interest in into the underlying application code. See team completion model. You may submit your data to Microsoft through the AI-assisted IntelliSense service for the sole purpose of enabling Microsoft to create a team completion model. The team completion model is an AI-assisted IntelliSense set of recommendations based on your data. By submitting your data to Microsoft, you give Microsoft the right and license to copy, modify, create derivative works of, and transform in the fonts, and
This is too boring.
to temporarily download them to a printer or other output. Only IE.
What's up with the fonts?
Fonts. While the software is running, you may use its fonts to display and print content. You may only embed fonts in content as permitted by the embedding restrictions in the fonts, and temporarily download them to a printer or other output device to print content.
Their fonts look like shit. Who the fuck would want Microsoft fonts? Nobody even wants the Microsoft operating systems. Who's gonna want the fonts? And what the fuck is this? They only care if you have $1 million. Up here somewhere. Somewhere up here.
An enterprise is any organization and its affiliates who collectively have either a more than 250 PCs or users, or b $1 million or the equivalent in other currencies in annual revenues. And affiliates means those entities that control, via majority ownership, are controlled by, or are under common control with an organization.
Well, this is all for educational purposes. This is ridiculous. Why don't they pick like $5 or something more manageable? So let's check out what it says. Alright, so chatbot summarize it.
The text you've shared is the Microsoft Software License Agreement for Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2022. It outlines the terms under which you are allowed to use the software, including
I can do whatever I want. They can say whatever.
key points from the agreement. License rights, individual license. If you're an individual, you can use the software to develop and test your own applications, whether for personal use or commercial purposes. Organizational license. If you're an organization, there are specific rules on how many users can use the software for different purposes. For example, developing open source software, creating Visual Studio extensions, or device drivers for Windows. Point 2.
I like how chatbot didn't mention the $1 million. Chatbot skipped over the $1 million requirement for a reason. Because Microsoft paid chatbot. I won't get into it, whatever.
Why did you skip over the $1 million statement? Ah, my bad. Let me address that part directly.
You know what? I don't give a fuck. This is all for educational purposes. So you can learn about how much Microsoft sucks. So I'm gonna take this routine, whatever, paste it in and stuff. I think it's dash 02 or 02. Does it look at that? Alright, my guess. GCC, GNU, whatever it is. It's gonna be faster because, as you can see, it's the same exact instructions, except Microsoft is using AX when GCC is using EAX. Now, why would they do that? Because Microsoft is punishing for using a U short when it knows that it's faster to use 32-bit register. Microsoft is intentionally using the 16-bit register on purpose because they're biased, because the same reason that this code was bigger, because they're not optimizing for the user, they're optimizing for the current CPU, and they're optimizing for standards that they try to enforce. So I don't know. This is Visual Studio, the newest one. GCC, whatever. And since Visual Studio sees short, which is 16-bit for the return type and the argument type, they're intentionally using a short because it'll be slower. I don't know. That's all what I would assume. Because I don't know how you can make the same exact assembly for like this type of thing, but for like the other routine. Visual Studio makes like so much extra code other than being biased and trying to write code that'll run faster on only newer CPUs and like trying to like enforce syntax or like standardizations or whatever. Okay, so these are both 16 instructions. And then mine was $16 instructions. Ta-da! Alright, now which is faster? This one? I hate Windows. It's not working. It's zooming the desktop, even though I clicked. Maybe I didn't. Alright, so which one's faster? I'm gonna see how close they're to the same. Could this just work? Please, just work. The streaming software. Test. The streaming software sucks. That took way too long to freaking move around these stupid windows. The program got stuck, locked up. I think it's still running. I don't know. Okay, so. Alright, GCC is probably gonna win. GCC might win because mine has it's carrying the result each time, so it's gonna slow it down. GCC will be able to, like, the way it's set up, it's using 32-bit, which is faster, but it also it'll possibly be able to, like, chunk up the out of order execution better. So I don't know. I'm gonna try to run this part at least. I'll run the rest of it in a minute. I need some more water. I don't know. I'm gonna try um the clock. What's it called? There's a name for it. It's not CPU ID. It's RTS, whatever the clock thing was that Chop was to use. I'm gonna try that in a minute. I don't think that's actually the time. So I don't know. I might have to call the Windows API to get the time. So I'm just gonna try it anyways, see what it looks like. and try to speed test whatever. But I think GCC is gonna be the winner here. I'm gonna like have to actually optimize stuff. This is just the first attempt or whatever. So I don't know, I'll be BRB. Just okay, it's working. I need to get some pop, soda pop, whatever. Or I'm gonna like fall asleep. I'll be right back. don't think the pop's working. I feel a little bit more awake, but not enough. So I'm gonna like check chatbot to see what it would output for this C routine, whatever. Because I'm pretty sure this is like super common. Like what anybody would type up. That's their first time doing assembly. So I'm gonna chatbot really quick. Then I'm gonna like speed test this stuff. I'll test just this for now, whatever, to see if the timer works. If it looks like everything's working, I'll try like to get the second part too. And if not, if like stuff's not working, I'll just give up for now. For now. That's not even a word. For today. And I don't know. I want to try to speed test something. I'm so close now. So copy. I'm asking chatbot this whatever.
How would you write this C code as x86 64-bit?
I'm pasting what I had the other browser window compile, but the browser didn't compile it. It sent it to like the server or something. They sent it back.
Output it in NASM syntax. And don't put comments, just line by line.
So chatbot says this. Bum bum bum. Chatbot has 17 instructions. Therefore, chatbot is not human. It doesn't even think human because it's not human. It's not even intelligent. How does it end up with 17 instructions? I don't know, I'm gonna like investigate and then blah blah. Then I'm gonna try to speed test it. I need to drink more water. Okay, so chatbot made basically the same thing I did, which means my assembly is probably not gonna be faster. So I don't know till I run it though. But chatbot, in all of its chatbot wisdom, it decided to actually invert the AX register. I'll ask it to optimize it and see what it does. But it inverted it because technically I said to invert it here. But really, it doesn't matter how it's done, just as long as it does the operation. It looks like Visual Studio and GCC also did invert it. I thought they would have made it to an XOR. So I guess neither of them, the compilers picked up on it. I don't know. So I got XOR. I didn't need the not or whatever. So I'll ask chatbot to optimize it, and then I'm gonna run this code. My throat is so dry.
Can you optimize your output? Here's a more optimized version of the NASM code for the xfunc function. I've eliminated some redundant operations, specifically by reusing registers and minimizing the number of instructions.
LOL. It removed one instruction probably. Oh, so look at that. That's actually kind of impressive. Kind of impressive if it works so. I think it broke the code. This kind of looks like my first attempt. So I don't know if the second works. So I'm gonna try these four, and then I'll try this. I'll try this one first. So I have the timer, whatever. That chatbot set to use last time. I'll have Siri read. I literally can't talk. My throat's so dry. I'll have Siri read ECMA JavaScript standard. And I'm gonna try to like get the timer working, whatever. If I explain every little step, I'm not gonna get done. I just wanna like run this thing before the end of the stream. I'm like really tired.
Echoed, specifier, a string, payload, a graph loading state record or a promise capability record, and result either a normal completion containing a module record or a throw completion, and returns unused. It performs the following steps when called. If result is a normal completion, then, if referrer contains a record whose is specifier, then, I assert, that records is result be else I append the record, specifier, result, to referrer. If payload is a graph loading state record, then, a perform continue module loading, payload, result, else, a perform continue dynamic import, payload, result, return unused. 6, 2, 1, 1, 0 get module namespace, module. The abstract operation get module namespace takes argument module, an instance of a concrete subclass of module record, and returns a module namespace object or empty. It retrieves the module namespace object representing modules exports, lazily creating it the first time it was requested, and storing that in module for future retrieval. It performs the following steps when called. Assert. If module is a cyclic module record, then module is not new or unlinked. Let namespace be module. If namespace is empty, then a let exported names be module get exported names. B let unambiguous names be a new empty list. C for each element name of exported names. Do I let resolution be module resolve export. Name 2. If resolution is a resolved binding record, append name to unambiguous names. D set namespace to module namespace create. Module. Unambiguous names. Return namespace. 6, 2, 1, 1, 1 runtime semantics. Evaluation module. empty, return undefined. Module body, module item list, let result be completion. Evaluation of module item list. If result is a normal completion and result is empty, then a return undefined 3. Return result, module item list, module item list, module item, let SL be. Evaluation of module item list, let S be completion. Evaluation of module item, return. Update empty, S, SL. Note get module namespace never throws. Instead, unresolvable names are simply excluded from the namespace at this point. They will lead to a real linking error later unless they are all ambiguous star exports that are not explicitly requested anywhere. ECMA International 2024 393. Note the value of a module item list is the value of the last value producing item in the module item list. Module item. Import declaration. Return empty 162. 2. Import syntax. Import declaration. Import clause from clause. Import module specifier. Import clause. Imported default binding. Namespace import. Named imports. Imported default binding. Namespace import. Imported default binding. Named imports. Imported default binding. Imported binding. Namespace import. As imported binding. Named imports. Imports list. Capital I. Imports list. From clause. From module specifier. Imports list. Import specifier. Imports list. Import specifier. Import specifier. Imported binding. Module export name as imported binding module specifier. String literal imported binding. Binding identifier. Yield. Plus await. 162. 2. 1 static semantics. Early errors. Module item. Import declaration. It is a syntax error if the bound names of import declaration contains any duplicate entries. 94. Copyright sign. ECMA International 2024 162. 2 static semantics. Import entries. The syntax-directed operation import entries takes no arguments and returns a list of import entry records. It is defined piecewise over the following productions. Module. Empty. Return a new empty list. Module item list. Module item list. Module item. Let entries 1 be import entries of module item list. Let entries 2 be import entries of module item. Return the list concatenation of entries 1 and entries 2. Module item. Export declaration. Statement list item. Return a new empty list. Import declaration. Import clause from clause. Let module be the sole element of module requests of from clause. Return import entries for module of import clause with argument module. Import declaration. Import module specifier. 1. Return a new empty list. 6. 2. 3 static semantics. Import entries for module. The syntax-directed operation import entries for module takes argument module, a string, and returns a list of import entry records. It is defined piecewise over the following productions. Import clause. Imported default binding. Namespace import. Let entries 1 be import entries for module of imported default binding with argument module. Let entries 2 be import entries for module of namespace import with argument module. Return the list concatenation of entries 1 and entries 2. Import clause. Imported default binding. Named imports. Let entries 1 be import entries for module of imported default binding with argument module. Let entries 2 be import entries for module of named imports with argument module. Return the list concatenation of entries 1 and entries 2. Imported default binding. Imported binding. Let local name be the sole element of bound names of imported binding. Let default entry be the import entry record. Module. Default. Local name. Local name. Return default entry. Namespace import. As imported binding. Let local name be the string value of imported binding. Let entry be the import entry record. Module. Namespace object. Local name. Local name. Return entry. ECMA International 2024 395. Named imports. Return a new empty list. Imports list. Imports list. Import specifier. Let specs 1 be the import entries for module of imports list with argument module. Let specs 2 be the import entries for module of import specifier with argument module. Return the list concatenation of specs 1 and specs 2. Import specifier. Imported binding. Let local name be the sole element of bound names of imported binding. Let entry be the import entry record. Module. Local name. Local name. Local name. Return entry. Import specifier. Module export name as imported binding. Let import name be the string value of module export name. Let local name be the string value of imported binding. Let entry be the import entry record. Module import name, local name, return entry. 6, 2, 3. Export syntax. Export declaration. Export from clause. Export named exports. Export variable statement. Yield plus await. Export declaration. Yield plus await. Export default hoistable declaration. Yield plus await plus default. Export default class declaration. Yield plus await plus default. Export default. Look ahead. Function async. No line terminator here. Function class assignment expression plus in yield plus await. Export from clause as module export name named exports. Named exports. Exports list. Exports list. Exports list. Export specifier. Exports list. Export specifier. Export specifier. Module export name 96. ECMA International 2024. Module export name as module export name 1623. Static semantics. Early errors. Export declaration. Export named exports. It is a syntax error if reference bindings of named exports contains any string literals. For each identifier name n in referenced bindings of named exports. It is a syntax error if string value of n is a reserved word or the string value of n is one of implements. Interface. Let. Package. Private. Protected. Public. Or static. 6, 2, 3. 2. Static semantics. Exported bindings. The syntax-directed operation exported bindings takes no arguments and returns a list of strings. It is defined piecewise over the following productions. Module item list. Module item list. Module item. Let names 1 be exported bindings of module item list. Let names 2 be exported bindings of module item. Return the list concatenation of names 1 and names 2. Module item. Import declaration. Statement list item. Return a new empty list. Export declaration. Export from clause. 1. Return a new empty list. Export declaration. Export named exports. Return the exported bindings of named exports. Export declaration. Export variable statement 1. Return the bound names of variable statement. Export declaration. Export declaration 1. Return the bound names of declaration. Export declaration. Export default hoistable declaration. Export default class declaration. Export default assignment expression. Return the bound names of this export declaration. Note the above rule means that each reference bindings of named exports is treated as an identifier reference. Note exported bindings are the locally bound names that are explicitly associated with the module's exported names. ECMA International 2024 397. Named exports. Return a new empty list. Exports list. Exports list. Export specifier. Let names 1 be the exported bindings of exports list. Let names 2 be the exported bindings of export specifier. Return the list concatenation of names 1 and names 2. Export specifier. Module export name. Return a list whose sole element is the string value of module export name. Export specifier. Module export name as module export name. Return a list whose sole element is the string value of the first module export name. 6, 2, 3. 3. Static semantics. Exported names. The syntax-directed operation exported names takes no arguments and returns a list of strings. It is defined piecewise over the following productions. Module item list. Module item list. Module item. Let names 1 be exported names of module item list. Let names 2 be exported names of module item. Return the list concatenation of names 1 and names 2. Module item. Export declaration. Return the exported names of export declaration. Module item. Import declaration. Statement list item. Return a new empty list. Export declaration. Export from clause. Return the exported names of export from clause. Export from clause. Return a new empty list. Export from clause. As module export name. Return a list whose sole element is the string value of module export name. Export from clause. Named exports. Return the exported names of named exports. 398. ECMA International 2024. Note exported names are the externally visible names that a module explicitly maps to one of its local name bindings. Export declaration. Export variable statement 1. Return the bound names of variable statement. Export declaration. Export declaration 1. Return the bound names of declaration. Export declaration. Export default hoistable declaration. Export default class declaration. Export default assignment expression. Return default. Named exports. Return a new empty list. Exports list. Exports list. Export specifier. Let names 1 be the exported names of exports list. Let names 2 be the exported names of export specifier. Return the list concatenation of names 1 and names 2. Export specifier. Module export name. Return a list whose sole element is the string value of module export name. Export specifier. Module export name as module export name. Return a list whose sole element is the string value of the second module export name. 6, 2, 3, 4 static semantics. Export entries. The syntax-directed operation export entries takes no arguments and returns a list of export entry records. It is defined piecewise over the following productions. Module. Empty. Return a new empty list. Module item list. Module item list. Module item. Let entries 1 be export entries of module item list. Let entries 2 be export entries of module item. Return the list concatenation of entries 1 and entries 2. Module item. Import declaration. Statement list item. Return a new empty list. Export declaration. Export from clause. Let module be the sole element of module requests of from clause. Return export entries for module of export from clause with argument module. ECMA International 2024 399. Export declaration. Export named exports. Return export entries for module of named exports with argument null. Export declaration. Export variable statement. Let entries be a new empty list. Let names be the bound names of variable statement. For each element name of names, do A. Append the export entry record. Null. Name. To entries. Return entries. Export declaration. Export declaration. Let entries be a new empty list. Let names be the bound names of declaration. For each element name of names, do A. Append the export entry record. Null. Name. To entries. Return entries. Export declaration. Export default hoistable declaration. Let names be bound names of hoistable declaration. Let local name be the sole element of names. Return a list whose sole element is a new export entry record. Null. Local name. Default. Export declaration. Export default class declaration. Let names be bound names of class declaration. Let local name be the sole element of names. Return a list whose sole element is a new export entry record. Null. Local name. Default. Export declaration. Export default assignment expression. Let entry be the export entry record. Null. Default. Return entry. 6, 2, 3, 5 static semantics. Export entries for module. The syntax-directed operation export entries for module takes argument module, a string or null, and returns a list of export entry records. It is defined piecewise over the following productions. Export from clause. 1, 2. Let entry be the export entry record. Module. All but default. Null. Return entry. 00. ECMA International 2024. Note default is used within this specification as a synthetic name for anonymous default export values. See this note for more details. Export from clause. As module export name. Let export name be the string value of module export name. Let entry be the export entry record. Module. All. Null. Export name. Return entry. Named exports. Return a new empty list. Exports list. Export specifier. Let specs 1 be the export entries for module of exports list with argument module. Let specs 2 be the export entries for module of export specifier with argument module. Return the list concatenate ion of specs 1 and specs 2. Export specifier. Module export name. Let source name be the string value of module export name. If a module is null, then a let local name be source name. B let import name be null. Else a let local name be null. B let import name be source name. Return a list whose sole element is a new export entry record. module, import name, local name, source name, export specifier, module export name as module export name. Let source name be the string value of the first module export name. Let export name be the string value of the second module export name. If a module is null, then a let local name be source name. B let import name be null. Else a let local name be null. B let import name be source name. Return a list whose sole element is a new export entry record. Module import name, local name, export name. 6, 2, 3, 6 static semantics. Referenced bindings. The syntax-directed operation reference bindings takes no arguments and returns a list of parse nodes. It is defined piecewise over the following productions. Named exports. Return a new empty list. Exports list. Export specifier. Let names 1 be the referenced bindings of exports list. Let names 2 be the referenced bindings of export specifier. Return the list concatenation of names 1 and names 2. Export specifier. Module export name as module export name. Return the reference bindings of the first module export name. ECMA International 2024 401. Module export name. Identifier name. Return a list whose sole element is the identifier name. Module export name. String literal. Return a list whose sole element is the string literal. 6, 2, 3, 7 runtime semantics. Evaluation. Export declaration. Export from clause. Export named exports. Return empty. Export declaration. Export variable statement. Return. Evaluation of variable statement. Export declaration. Return. Evaluation of declaration. Export default hoistable declaration. Return. Evaluation of hoistable declaration. Export default class declaration. Let value be capital B I N D I N G capital C L A S S capital D E C L A R A T I O N capital E V A L U A T of class declaration. Let class name be the sole element of bound names of class declaration. If class name is default, then let env be the running execution context's lexical environment. B perform. Initialize bound name, default, value, env, return empty, export declaration, export default assignment expression. If is anonymous function definition, assignment expression, is true, then let value be named evaluation of assignment expression with argument default. Else let RHS be evaluation of assignment expression. B let value be get value RHS. Let env be the running execution context's lexical environment. Perfo RM. Initialize bound name, default, value, env, return empty. 7 error handling and language extensions. An implementation must report most errors at the time the relevant ECMAScript language construct is evaluated. An early error is an error that can be detected and reported prior to the evaluation of any construct in the script containing the error. The presence of an early error prevents the evaluation of the construct. An implementation must report early errors in a script as part of parsing that script in ParseScript. Early errors in a module are reported at the point when the module would be evaluated and the module is never initialized. Early errors in 02, copyright sign, ECMA International 2024, eval code are reported at the time eval is called and prevent evaluation of the eval code. All errors that are not early errors are runtime errors. An implementation must report as an early error any occurrence of a condition that is listed in a static semantics early errors subclause of this specification. An implementation shall not treat other kinds of errors as early errors even if the compiler can prove that a construct cannot execute without error under any circumstances. An implementation may issue an early warning in such a case, but it should not report the error until the relevant construct is actually executed. An implementation shall report all errors as specified, except for the following. Except as restricted in 17.1, a host or implementation may extend script syntax, module syntax, and regular expression pattern or flag syntax. To permit this, all operations, such as calling eval, using a regular expression literal, or using the function or regexp constructor, that are allowed to throw syntax error permitted to exhibit host defined behavior instead of throwing syntax error when they encounter a host-defined extension to the script syntax or regular expression pattern or flag syntax, except as restricted in 17.1. A host or implementation may provide additional types, values, objects, properties, and functions beyond those described in this specification. This may cause constructs, such as looking up a variable in the global scope, to have host-defined behavior instead of throwing an error, such as reference error. 7.1 Forbidden extensions. An implementation must not extend this specification in the following ways. ECMAScript function objects defined using syntactic constructors in strict mode code must not be created with own properties named caller or arguments. Such own properties also must not be created for function objects defined using an arrow function, method definition, generator declaration, generator expression, async generator declaration, async generator expression, class declaration, class expression, async function declaration, async function expression, or async arrow function regardless of whether the definition is contained in strict mode code. Built-in functions. Strict functions created using the function constructor. Generator functions created using the generator constructor. Async functions created using the async function constructor. And functions created using the bind method also must not be created with such own properties. If an implementation extends any function object with a known property named caller, the value of that property, as observed using, must not be a strict function object. If it is an accessor property, the function that is the value of the properties. Neither map nor unmapped arguments objects may be created with a known property named caller. The behavior of built-in methods which are specified in ECMA 402, such as those named local string, must not be extended except as specified in ECMA 402. The regexp pattern grammars in 2.2, 1 and b 1.2 must not be extended to recognize any of the source characters at Z or raise Z as identity escape. Class Unicode mode. When the Unicode mode grammar parameter is present, the syntactic grammar must not be extended in any manner that allows the token to immediately follow source text that is matched by the binding identifier non-terminal symbol. When processing strict mode code, an implementation must not relax the early error rules of 1.2.9. 3.1. Template escape sequence must not be extended to include legacy octal escape sequence or non-octal decimal escape sequence as defined in 1.2.9.4. When processing strict mode code, the extensions defined in B 3.1, B 3.2, B 3.3, and B 3.5 must not be supported. When parsing for the module goal symbol, the lexical grammar extensions defined in B 1.1 must not be supported. Import call must not be extended. ECMA International 2024 403. 18 ECMAScript standard built-in objects. There are certain built-in objects available whenever an ECMAScript script or module begins execution. 1. The global object is part of the global environment of the executing program. Others are accessible as initial properties of the global object or indirectly as properties of accessible built-in objects. Unless specified otherwise, a built-in object that is callable as a function is a built-in function object with the characteristics described in 10.3. Unless specified otherwise, the internal slot of a built-in object initially has the value true. Every built-in function object has an internal slot whose value is the realm record of the realm for which the object was initially created. Many built-in objects are functions. They can be invoked with arguments. Some of them furthermore are constructors. They are functions intended for use with the new operator. For each built-in function, the specification describes the arguments required by that function and the properties of that function object. For each built-in constructor, the specification furthermore describes properties of the prototype object of that constructor and properties of specific object instances returned by a new expression that invokes that constructor, unless otherwise specified in the description of a particular function. If a built-in function or constructor is given fewer arguments than the function is specified to require, The function or constructor shall behave exactly as if it had been given sufficient additional arguments, each such argument being the undefined value. Such missing arguments are considered to be not present and may be identified in that manner by specification algorithms. In the description of a particular function, the terms this value and new target have the meanings given in 10.3, unless otherwise specified in the description of a particular function. If a built-in function or constructor described is given more arguments than the function is specified to allow, the extra arguments are evaluated by the calling, then ignored by the function. However, an implementation may define implementation-specific behavior relating to such arguments as long as the behavior is not the throwing of a type error exception that is predicated simply on the presence of an extra argument. Unless otherwise specified, every built-in function and every built-in constructor has the function prototype object, which is the initial value of the expression function prototype, 2023, as the value of its internal slot. Unless otherwise specified, every built-in prototype object has the object prototype object, which is the initial value of the expression object prototype, 2013, as the value of its internal slot, except the object prototype object itself. If this specification defines a built-in constructor's behavior via algorithm steps, then that is its behavior for the purposes of both and. If such an algorithm needs to distinguish the two cases, it checks whether new target is undefined, which indicates an invocation. Built-in function objects that are not identified as constructors do not implement the internal method unless otherwise specified in the description of a particular function. Built-in function objects that are not constructors do not have a prototype property unless otherwise specified in the description of a particular function. Each built-in function defined in this specification is created by calling the create built-in function abstract operation 1, 0, 3, 4. The values of the length and name parameters are the initial values of the length and name properties as discussed below. The values of the prefix parameter are similarly discussed below. Every built-in function object, including constructors, has a length property whose value is a non-negative integral number. Unless otherwise specified, this value is the number of required parameters shown in the subclause heading for the function description. Optional parameters and rest parameters are not included in the parameter count. Note 1. Implementations that add additional capabilities to the set of built-in functions are encouraged to do so by adding new functions rather than adding new parameters to existing functions. 04. Copyright sign, ECMA International 2024. Note 2. For example, the function object that is the initial value of the map property of the array prototype object is described under the subclause heading array prototype map. Callback fn, this arg, which shows the two named arguments callback fn in this arg, the latter being optional. Therefore the value of the length property of that function object is 1. Unless otherwise specified, the length property of a built-in function object has the attributes false, false, true. Every built-in function object, including constructors, has a name property whose value is a string. Unless otherwise specified, this value is the name that is given to the function in this specification. Functions that are identified as anonymous functions use the empty string as the value of the name property. For functions that are specified as properties of objects, the name value is the property name string used to access the function. Functions that are specified as get or set access of functions of built-in properties of get or set, respectively, passed to the prefix parameter when calling create built-in function. The value of the name property is explicitly specified for each built-in functions whose property key is a symbol value. If such an explicitly specified value starts with the prefix get or set and the function for which it is specified as a get or set access a function of a built-in property, the value without the prefix is passed to the name parameter, and the value get or set, respectively, is passed to the prefix parameter when calling create built-in function. Unless otherwise specified, the name property of a built-in function object has the attributes false, false, true. Every other data property described in clauses 19 through 28 and in Annex B. 2 has the attributes true, false, true unless otherwise specified. Every accessor property described in clauses 19 through 28 and in Annex B. 2 has the attributes false, true unless otherwise specified. If only a get accessor function is described, the set accessor function is the default value, undefined. If only a set accessor is described, the get accessor is the default value, undefined. 9. The global object. The global object is created before control enters any execution context, does not have an internal method. It cannot be used as a constructor with the new operator, does not have an internal method. It cannot be invoked as a function, has an internal slot whose value is host defined, may have host defin ed properties in addition to the properties defined in this specification. This may include a property whose value is the global object itself. 9.1 Value properties of the global object. 1 global this. The initial value of the global this property of the global object in a realm record realm is realm. This property has the attributes true, false, true 1 2 infinity. The value of infinity is plus C6 1 6 1. This property has the attributes false, false, false. ECMA International 2024 405 1 nan. The value of nan is nan C6 1 6 1. This property has the attributes false, false. Configurable false 1 4 undefined. The value of undefined is undefined C6 1 1. This property has the attributes false, false, false. 9.2 Function properties of the global object. 1 eval x. This function is the %eval %intrinsic object. It performs the following steps when called. Return. Perform eval x. False. False 1 2 1 Perform eval x. Strict caller. Direct. The abstract operation perform eval takes arguments x, an ECMAScript language value, strict caller, a boolean, and direct a boolean, and returns either a normal completion containing an ECMAScript language value or a throw completion. It performs the following steps when called. Assert. If direct is false, then strict caller is also false. If x is not a string, return x. Let eval realm be the current realm record. Note. In the case of a direct eval realm is the realm of both the caller of eval and of the eval function itself. Perform. Host ensure can compile strings, eval realm, x, direct. Let in function be false. Let in method be false. Let in derived constructor be false. Let in class field initializer be false. 0. If direct is true, then a let this envrec be get this environment. B if this envrec is a function environment record. Then, I let f be the envrec. 2. Set in function to true. 3. Set in method to the envrec has super binding. If f is derived, set in derived constructor to true. V let class field initializer name be f. V. If class field initializer name is not empty, set in class field initializer to true. 1. Perform the following sub-steps in an implementation defined order, possibly interleaving parsing and error detection. A let script be parse text. String to code points. X. Script. B if script is a list of errors. Throw a syntax error exception. C if script contains script body is false. Return undefined. D let body be the script body of script. E if in function is false and body contains new target. Throw a syntax error exception. F if in method is false and body contains super property. Throw a syntax error or exception. G if in derived constructor is false and body contains supercall. Throw a syntax error exception. H if in class field initializer is true and contains arguments of body is true. Throw a syntax error exception. 2. If strict caller is true, let strict eval be true. 3. Else, let strict eval be as strict of script. 4. Let running context be the running execution context. 06. ECMA International 2024 15. Note. If direct is true, running context will be the execution context that performed the direct eval. If direct is false, running context will be the execution context for the invocation of the eval function. 6. If direct is true, then a let lexenv be new declarative environment. Running context's lexical environment. B let var-env be running context's variable environment. C let private env be running context's private environment. 7. Else, a let lexenv be new declarative environment. eval realm b let var env be eval realm c let private env be null. 8. If strict eval is true, set var env to lex env. 9. If running context is not already suspended, suspend running context. 0. Let eval context be a new ECMAScript code execution context. 1. Set eval context's function to null. 2. Set eval context's realm to eval realm. 3. Set eval context script or module to running context script or module. 4. Set eval context's variable environment to var env. 5. Set eval context's lexical environment to lex-env. 6. Set eval context's private environment to private env. 7. Push eval context onto the execution context stack. Eval context is now the running execution context. 8. Let result be completion, eval declaration instantiation, body, var env, lex-env, private env, strict eval. 9. If result is a normal completion, then a set result to completion, evaluation of body. 0. If result is a normal completion and result is empty, then a set result to normal completion, undefined. 1. Suspend eval context and remove it from the execution context stack. 2. Resume the context that is now on the top of the execution context stack as the running execution context. 3. Return result. 9. 2. 1. To host ensure can compile strings, Corley realm, parameter strings, body string, direct. The host-defined abstract operation host ensure can compile strings takes arguments Corley realm, a realm record, parameter strings, a list of strings, body string, a string, and direct a boolean, and returns either a normal completion containing unused or a throw completion. It allows host environments to block certain ECMAScript functions which allow developers to interpret and evaluate strings as ECMAScript code. Parameter strings represents the strings that, when using one of the function constructors, will be concatenated together to build the parameters list. Body string represents the function body or the string passed to an eval call. Direct signifies whether the evaluation is a direct eval. The default implementation of host ensure can compile tree. NGS is to return normal completion, unused 1 9, 2, 1, 3. Eval declaration instantiation, body, var env, lex-env, private env, strict. The abstract operation eval declaration instantiation takes arguments body a script body parse node, var env, an environment record, lex-env, a declarative environment record, private env, a private environment record or null, and strict, a boolean, and returns either a normal completion containing unused or a throw completion. It performs the following steps when called. Let var names be the var declared names of body. Let var declarations be the var scope declarations of body. If strict is false, then note the eval code cannot instantiate variable or function bindings in the variable environment of the calling context that invoke the eval if either the code of the calling context or the eval code is strict mode code. Instead, such bindings are instantiated in a new variable environment that is only accessible to the eval code. Bindings introduced by let, const, or class declarations are always instantiated in a new lexical environment. ECMA International 2024 407. If var env is a global environment record, then I for each element name of var names. Do. If var env has lexical declaration, name, is true, throw a syntax error exception. Note: eval will not create a global var declaration that would be shadowed by a global lexical declaration. B let the CNV be lex-env, C assert. The following loop will terminate. D repeat. While the CNV is not var env, if the CNV is not an object environment record, then, note, the environment of with statements cannot contain any lexical declaration, so it doesn't need to be checked for var-let hoisting conflicts. For each element name of var names, do. If the CNV has binding, name, is true, then I throw a syntax error exception. 2. Note: an XB 3.4 defines alternate semantics for the above step. B note: a direct eval will not hoist var declaration over a like-named lexical declaration. 2. Set the CNV to the CNV. Let private identifiers be a new empty list. Let pointer be private env. Repeat. while pointer is not null. A for each private name binding of pointer. Do I have private identifiers does not contain binding. Append binding to private identifiers. B set pointer to pointer. If all private identifiers valid of body with argument private identifiers is false, throw a syntax error exception. Let functions to initialize be a new empty list. Let declared function names be a new empty list. 0. For each element D of var declarations, in reverse list order. Do if D is not either a variable declaration, a for binding, or a binding identifier, then I assert D is either a function declaration, a generator declaration, an async function declaration, or an async generator declaration. 2. Note: if there are multiple function declarations for the same name, the last street declaration is used. 3. Let fn be the sole element of the bound names of D. If declared function names does not contain fn, then if var_env is a global environment record, then a let fn definable be var_env can declare global function fn. B if fn definable is false, throw a type error exception. Append fn to declared function names. Insert D as the first element of functions to initialize. 1. Let declared var names be a new empty list. 2. For each element D of var declarations, do if D is either a variable declaration, a for binding, or a binding identifier, then I for each string vn of the bound names of D. Do if declared function names does not contain vn, then if var_env is a global environment record, then I let vn definable be var_env can declare global var vn. 2. If vn definable is false, throw a type error exception. B if declared var names does not contain vn, then I append vn to declared var names. 3. Note: an xb 3 2 3 adds additional steps at this point. 4. Note: no abnormal terminations occur after this algorithm step unless var_env is a global environment record and the global object is a proxy exotic object. 5. Let lex declarations be the lexically scoped declarations of body. 6. For each element D of lex declarations, do a note: lexically declared names are only instantiated here but not initialized. B for each element Dn of the bound names of D, do I if this constant declaration of D is true, then perform lexenv create immutable binding. Dn true. 2. Else perform lexenv create mutable binding. Dn false. 7. For each parse node f of functions to initialize, do 408. ECMA International 2024. A let fn be the sole element of the bound names of f. B let fo be instantiate function object of f with arguments lexenv and private env. C if var_env is a global environment record, then I perform var_env create global function binding fn fo true. D else I let binding exists be var_env has binding fn. 2. If binding exists as false, then note: the following invocation cannot return an abrupt completion because of the validation preceding step 14. Perform var_env create mutable binding fn true. Perform var_env initialize binding fn fo. 3. Else perform var_env set mutable binding fn fo false. 18. For each string vn of declared var names, do if var_env is a global environment record, then I perform var_env create global var binding vn true. B else I let binding exists be var_env has binding vn. 2. If binding exists as false, then note: the following invocation cannot return an abrupt completion because of the validation preceding step 14. Perform var_env create mutable binding vn true. Perform var_env initialize binding vn undefined. 9. Return unused. Note: an alternative version of this algorithm is described in B 3.4. 2. 2 is finite number. This function is the is finite intrinsic object. It performs the following steps when called. Let num be the number. If num is not finite, return false. Otherwise, return true. 9. 2. 3 is nan number. This function is the is nan intrinsic object. It performs the following steps when called. Let num be the number. If num is nan, return true. Otherwise, return false. 9. 2. 4 parse float string. This function produces a number value dictated by interpretation of the contents of the string argument as a decimal literal. It is the %parse float % intrinsic object, a reliable way for ECMAScript code to test if a value x is none as an expression of the form. Note, x equals x. The result will be true if and only if x is none. ECMA International 2024 409. It performs the following steps when called. Let input string be to string. Let trimmed string be trim string. Input string start. Let trimmed be string to code points. Trimmed string. Let trimmed prefix be the longest prefix of trimmed that satisfies the syntax of a str decimal literal, which might be trimmed itself. If there is no such prefix, return none. Let parsed number be parsed text. Trimmed prefix str decimal literal. Assert parsed number as a parse node. Return string numeric value of parsed number 9, 2, 5 parse int string radix. This function produces an integral number dictated by interpretation of the contents of string according to the specified radix. A leading white space in string is ignored. If radix coalesces to 0, such as when it is undefined, it is assumed to be 10 except when the number representation begins with 0x or 0x, in which case it is assumed to be 16. If radix is 16, the number representation may optionally begin with 0x or 0x. It is the %parse int % intrinsic object. It performs the following steps when called. Let input string be to string. Let s be trim string. Input string start. Let sign be 1 if s is not empty and the first code unit of s is the code unit 0 times 002d hyphen minus. Set sign to -1 if s is not empty and the first code unit of s is either the code unit 0 times 002b plus sign or the code unit 0 times 002d hyphen minus. Set s to the substring of s from index 1. Let r be r to int 32. Radix. Let strip prefix be true if r0, then if r2 or r36. Return none. B if r16. Set strip prefix to false, else set r to 10, 0. If strip prefix is true, then if the length of s is at least 2 and the first two code units of s are either 0x or 0x, then I set s to the substring of s from index 2, 2. Set r to 16, 1. If s contains a code unit that is not a radix r digit, let n be the index within s of the first such code unit. Otherwise, let n be the length of s. 2. Let z be the substring of s from 0 to end. 3. If z is empty, return none. 4. Let math int be the integer value that is represented by z in radix r notation, using the letters a through z, and a through z for digits with values 10 through 35. However, if r equals 10 and z contains more than 20 significant digits, every significant digit after the 20th of may be replaced by a 0 digit, at the option of the implementation, and if r is not one of 2, 4, 8, 10, 16, or 32, then math int may be an implementation. Approximated integer representing the integer value denoted by z in radix r notation. 5. If math int equals 0, then a if sign equals -1, return -0, b return +0. 6. Return sign math int. Note this function may interpret only a leading portion of string as a number value. It ignores any code units that cannot be interpreted as part of the notation of a decimal literal, and no indication is given that any such code units were ignored. 10. ECMA International 2024. Note this function may interpret only a leading portion of string as an integer value. It ignores any code units that cannot be interpreted as part of the notation of an integer, and no indication is given that any such code units were ignored. 9. 2. 6. URI handling functions. Uniform resource identifiers, or URIs, are strings that identify resources, for example web pages or files, and transport protocols by which to access them, for example HTTP or FTP, on the internet. The ECMAScript language itself does not provide any support for using URIs except for functions that encode and decode URIs as described in this section. Encode URI and decode URI are intended to work with complete URIs. They assume that any reserved characters are intended to have special meaning, for example, as delimiters, and so are not encoded. Encode URI component and decode URI component are intended to work with the individual components of a URI. They assume that any reserved characters represent text and must be encoded to avoid special meaning when the component is part of a complete URI. 9, 2, 6, 1 decode URI, encoded URI. This function computes a new version of a URI in which each escape sequence and UTF-8 encoding of the sort that might be introduced by the encode URI function is replaced with the UTF-16 encoding of the code points that it represents. Escape sequences that could not have been introduced by encode URI are not replaced. It is the %decode URI %intrinsic object. It performs the following steps when called. Let URI string be. To string, encoded URI. Let preserve escape set be. At and equals plus $, return. Decode, URI string, preserve escape set. 9, 2, 6, to decode URI component, encoded URI component. This function computes a new version of a URI in which each escape sequence and UTF-8 encoding of the sort that might be introduced by the encode URI component function is replaced with the UTF-16 encoding of the code points that it represents. It is the %decode URI component %intrinsic object. It performs the following steps when called. Let component string be. To string, encoded URI component. Let preserve escape set be the empty string. Return. Decode. Component string, preserve escape set. Note 1. The set of reserved characters is based upon RFC 2396 and does not reflect changes introduced by the more recent RFC 3986. Note 2. Many implementations of ECMAScript provide additional functions and methods that manipulate web pages. These functions are beyond the scope of this standard. ECMA International 2024 411 192 6, 3 encode URI. This function computes a new version of a UTF-16 encoded 6, 1, 4 URI in which each instance of certain code points is replaced by 1, 2, 3, or 4 escape sequences representing the UTF-8 encoding of the code point. It is the %encode URI %intrinsic object. It performs the following steps when called. Let URI string be. To string, URI, let extra unescape be. At and equals plus $, return. Encode, URI string, extra unescaped. 9, 2, 6, 4 encode URI component. This function computes a new version of a UTF-16 encoded 6, 1, 4 URI in which each instance of certain code points is replaced by 1, 2, 3, or 4.
I can almost test it or whatever.
Encode.
But
The following steps when called. Let component string be.
wrong mouse. Here.
Extra unescape be the empty string. Return. Encode. Component string. Extra unescaped. 9, 2, 6, 5 encode. String. Extra unescaped. The abstract operation encode takes argument string, a string, and extra
For starters, it's not like offset. It's the right spot.
string or throw completion. It performs URI encoding and escaping.
But then I also realized it prints a char code. It's not even in the view. I meant to. There we go. So like it's not offset. It's a correct spot. But that's not the problem. The problem is that it's a value and I have to like format it or something. So like it's binary or something.
Be the code unit at index k within string. Be if unescaped.
But it's like I think it's 4 bytes.
B. C else. I let CP decode point at string k2. If CP is true.
I don't know. This is getting old. I need to get some more water. My contacts are so dry. I think I'm gonna give up for now. I'm gonna give up for now. That was tomorrow.
Of octet, formatted as an uppercase hexadecimal number. Set R to the string concatenation of R, %, and string pad.
I'm gonna have to make an array have to access the array, set the stupid char code, the format, the value. It's gonna be another 30-40 minutes. So, I don't know. I give up for now. I got close. Tomorrow, assuming that
Deck. Ode takes argument string, a string, and preserve escape set, a string, and returns either a normal completion containing a string or a throw completion. It performs URI unescaping and decoding, preserving any escape sequences that correspond to basic Latin
assuming that this
set. It performs the following steps when called. Let len be the length of string. Let r be the empty string. Let 0
this instruction actually works.
be the code unit at index k within string. Let s be e if c is the code unit 0 times 0025 %. Then if k plus 3 len throw a URI error exception 2. Let escape be the substring of string from
Assuming that this works, and it does get a good timestamp, I should be able to subtract
throw a URI error exception v set k to k plus 2 v.
the end time stamp when it's saved to memory, whatever,
The code unit whose numeric value
from the beginning timestamp,
set s to escape. Otherwise, set s to escape
which would give me the elapsed time
equals 1 or n.
taken
The error exception. Let octets be b. Let j be 1. Repeat.
to complete the macro in between.
A plus 3 len throw a URI error exception. See if the code
Which is defined up here, whatever.
025 %. Throw a URI error exception. Let continuation byte be parse hex octet.
Right here. So like this one, it didn't work. I'll optimize later.
F append continuation.
These two did work.
G set k to k plus 2. H set j to j plus
I would assume this one's faster.
n. If octets does not
So it's wrapped in a macro.
F8 encoding of a Unicode code point. Throw a
It's getting called right here.
applying the UTF-8 transformation to octets. That is, from a list of octets
It's getting called right here.
in encode code point v.
So all I have to do
Alternation of R and S.
is do like a load from an array. I'll add up the result, whatever. I'll set it to this register. It'll pass in. This is like the first part. There's a second part. I'll test this first, whatever. I literally can't see. My eyes are so dry. These contacts are killing me. I have to take these contacts out before my eyes start bleeding. Contacts suck. Alright. I can't see anything. Whatever. I'm calling this macro here. Also here. So I know it works. I'm calling it whatever. Right here. And it's working still, whatever. So now it's being called also. Down here in this loop for the speed test. So it's like separate, whatever. And then I'll get the time, benchmark it. I have to format the number. It's gonna take a bit to do. I might just convert to decimal instead of hexadecimal. So like when I format it, tomorrow I'm too tired. I can't see. My contacts are too dry. Contact drops. They're not gonna work. My eyes are really dry. So like, I'll format it, print the time it took. test this first, whatever. Then I'll write up the second part of the C function, whatever. So this is the first part. Second part here, I'll do that too tomorrow. I'll speed test this first, just to like test stuff. This is taking way too long. I want to run some kind of test ASAP. I want to save this, make sure it works still before I turn off. I think everything works still. I didn't mess with anything, so it should work. So tomorrow, I have a whole stream to just get the timer working and formatting the number to print it. Now I'll compare it to the output that Visual Studio made here, and then the output that GCC made right here, whatever. But also the output that Chatbot made. Here and the other one. So I would assume that the Microsoft output will probably work. The GCC will also possibly work. This, I think it'll work. This is Chatbot's output. This is Microsoft. Here. This one is a GCC. This one is Chatbot's first attempt to make assembly for the C function I gave it. This is Chatbot's second attempt. It like, quote, optimized it. This looks broken. I don't know if this will work. So I'll test those four against whatever I made. Here, whatever. If it's not faster, I'm gonna try to optimize it to make it faster. Because the whole point is to see if I can beat the compiler, because I'm writing a JavaScript engine. I'm going to meet the 200 page 2009 standard, because 200 pages is less than the 800 page 2024 standard. So I'm going to go through the 2024 standard. I'm going to get it running and stuff first. I'm not going to do assembly and stuff until the very end, but I am going to have to like figure out where I'm going to put assembly. And dang it, I forgot. I don't know. I'm gonna optimize the fuck out of JavaScript. I had something else to say, but I forgot. I'm not gonna remember. I'm so tired. So that's it for today. I'm gonna leave the stream running for 10 more minutes because the stream doesn't always end. Last stream, it actually did send the whole stream. So I don't know. I'm let the stream run on for 10 more minutes. I still didn't remember what I was gonna say. So, I don't know. Yeah. I'll let the stream on for 10 more minutes. I'll finish this up tomorrow. Peace.
Nineteen point three Constructor properties of the global object 193.1 aggregate error C205711932 array C2311933 array buffer C2514934 begint C2121935 begint 64 array C2325936 begint 64 array C2325937 boolean C2031938 data view C2532938 C2144214 copyright sign ECMA International 2024, the 19th of March 2010 error C205 1. The 9th of March 2011 eval error C205 1. The 9th of March 2012 finalization registry C26 2. 1. The 9th of March 2013 float 32 array C23 2. 5. The 9th of March 2014 float 64 array C23 2. 5. The 9th of March 2015 function C20 2. 1. The 9th of March 2016 int 8 array C23 2. 5. The 9th of March 2017 int 16 array C23 2. 5. The 9th of March 2018 int 32 array C23 2. 5. The 9th of March 2019 map C24 1. 1. The 9th of March 2020 number C21 1. 1. The 9th of March 2021 object C20 1. 1. The 9th of March 2022 promise C27 2. 3. ECMA International 2024 15. The 19th of March 2023 proxy C28 2. 1. The 9th of March 2024 range error C20 5 5 2. The 9th of March 2025 reference error C20 5 5 3. The 9th of March 2026 Reggie XP C22 2 4. The 19th of March 2027 set C24 2 1. The 9th of March 2028 shared array buffer C25 2 3. The 9th of March 2029 string C22 1 1. The 9th of March 1930 symbol C20 4 1. The 9th of March 1931 syntax error C20 5 5 4. The 9th of March 1932 type error C20 5 5 5. The 9th of March 1933 int 8 array C23 2 5. The 9th of March 1934 runt 8 clamped array C23 2 5. The 9th of March 1935 int 16 array C23 2 5 16 copyright sign ECMA International 2024 the 19th of March 1936 int 32 array C23 2 5. The 9th of March 1937 URI error C20 5 5 6. The 9th of March 1938 week map C24 3 1. The 9th of March 1939 week ref C26, 1. 1. The 9th of March 1940 week set. C24.4. 9.4 Other properties of the global object. 9. 4. 1 Atomics. C25.4. 19. 4. 2 JSON. C25.5. 19. 4. 3 Math. C21.3. 19. 4. 4 Reflect. C28.1. 0 Fundamental Objects. 0.1 Objects. 0. 1. 1 The object constructor. The object constructor is %object%, is the initial value of the object property of the global object, creates a new, ordinary object when called as a constructor, performs a type conversion when called as a function rather than as a constructor, may be used as the value of an extends clause of a class definition. ECMA International 2024 417 20 1 1 1 Object value. This function performs the following steps when called. If new target is neither undefined nor the active function object, then a return. Ordinary create from constructor. New target. %object prototype %. If value is either undefined or null, return ordinary object create. %object prototype %. Return. To object. Value 0, 1. 2 Properties of the object constructor. The object constructor has an internal slot whose value is %function prototype %, has a length property whose value is 1, has the following additional properties 0, 1, 2, 1 Object assign, target, sources. This function copies the values of all of the enumerable own properties from one or more source objects to a target object. It performs the following steps when called. Let be. To object. Target. If only one argument was passed, return to. For each element next source of sources, do. If next source is neither undefined nor null, then I let from B. To object. Next source 2. Let keys be from 3. For each element next key of keys, do. Let desk be from next key. If desk is not undefined and desk is true, then a let proper value be. Get. From next key be perform. Set to next key proper value true. Return to. The length property of this function is 2 0 1 2 2 Object create. O properties. This function creates a new object with a specified prototype. It performs the following steps when called. If O is not an object and O is not null, throw a type error exception. Let obj be ordinary object create. O. If properties is not undefined, then a return. Object defined properties. Obj properties 4. Return obj 0 1 2 3 Object defined properties. O properties. This function adds own properties and or updates the attributes of existing own properties of an object. It performs the following steps when called. 18. Copyright sign. ECMA International 2024 1. If O is not an object, throw a type error exception. Return. Object defined properties. O properties 0 1 2 3 1 Object defined properties. O properties. The abstract operation object defined properties takes arguments O, an object, and properties, an ECMAScript language value, and returns either a normal completion containing an object or a throw completion. It performs the following steps when called. Let props be. To object. Properties. Let keys be props. Let descriptors be a new empty list. For each element next key of keys, do. A let prop desk be props. Next key be. If prop desk is not undefined and prop desk is true, then I let desk obj be. Get. Props. Next key 2. Let desk be. To property descriptor. Desk obj 3. Append the record. Desk. To descriptors. For each element property of descriptors, do a perform. Define property or throw. O. Property 6. Return O. 0 1 2 4 Object defined property. O. P. Attributes. This function adds an own property and or updates the attributes of an existing own property of an object. It performs the following steps when called. If O is not an object, throw a type error exception.